Hello and most welcome to Heidegger 300 or 872. It's a marvelous sunny day today here out in Hissing Island. I would say it's about 11 degrees, quite sunny. We have a chilly western wind, as usual here in Gothenburg, I would say at this time of the year. But if you have a black jacket, you're still rather safe from the chills you get. I would like to do the second take on my own deconstruction. Well, for me it's a grand thing. I've been having to make do of letting others do the deconstruction for me, and the only thing left to do is to side quote or copycat. Now I can do it myself, but it is a little bit like trying one's own wings, or maybe the difference between looking at someone riding a bike and to ride it yourself. I keenly remember when I was young admiring all the other boys and girls who was already riding the bike, wanting to do it myself, full of envy and want, so to speak. And when you finally got your own chance at trying it, it's quite a different thing. And I see from retrospect that was not the same thing at all, actually riding the bike or having just to look on, even though it was exciting to look at the bike riding as well. Deconstruction, Rodolphe Gashi has written in his book The Taint of the Mirror, has almost to 100% become just copycat, or seeing what other deconstructors have been doing and trying to copy that. That was not within the wishes of neither Derrida nor Foucault. They wanted us to do our only personal deconstruction for personal subjects, because deconstruction is always different and it goes with the subject. It cannot be taken out of its own domain, because the contradictions are not general. They are in a specific text, not general. Actually, the idea of a generalizable contradiction like man contra female or something like that is in itself a logocentric gesture. The world in itself is uncontradictionless, if you want. The contradictions we create in the text, in architecture, in music, or wherever they turn up need to be deconstructed in that context, and not that one transplants something from one text to another. So if we get a place here where we can actually we try once more here. Let's cut to the chase. I would try to deconstruct nothing less, nothing more than existence. One of the uses of the word existence, that is to exist yourself. What is existence? And it's seen that this drag from the presencing and the denial of absence is something really at work within this special framework, and you can see its significance in different contexts. And one important thing is one's own existence. Questions to ask that to ease up the subject is, do I really have to exist continually? And is it so that what is above me or around me, God, needs to be existent every single moment, everywhere as well? And what about where God is not, in empty space, in non-existence, for instance, is God not present in non-existence because he cannot, according to this almost laws of the perception or the gestalt, he cannot be non-existent? Would that mean that in non-existence he is not? I think these are rather pertinent questions. And how about the absence of the past? Is God there? Because the past is a non-existence. It's gone. Could God be there? Why doesn't God inhabit what doesn't exist? Cannot non-existence be something that God is? As to him, be able to be in non-existence. Could it be that we as people or persons or individuals never have existed? Could that be something? Why must it be almost a priori discarded that evolution created us and that we are machines without consciousness created by a happenstance that is enormous, and that if we die we will return to a consciousless non-being state, and we have to make do with the little time we are in this life, and after this life we will return to non-existence once more. So it's a passing thing to exist. And have a look-see, what is emptiness? What is it to not exist, either as a person or a part of space or time? Where does emptiness come from? It seems that we always start to look at what is, and after that we look into what existence is not. And we construct a sort of dependency in between what is and what is not. Because we define what is, the contours of what is made from what isn't. There is a codependency abiding here. A codependency that seems to be hard to sort of get rid of. Sorry about that. Because all the definitions I can come over and have a look-see is that something stems from existence, and that original departure is always something that isn't. So all what is completely dependent on what is not. And what is the original source of this emptiness? Whereas we seem to have a very clear understanding, or at least we assume that we have that, where materiality or substantiality or existence come from. We don't know where emptiness has come from. What is the story of emptiness? How did it originate? It seems that emptiness has always been there somehow. And do we have to be satisfied with the perpetual answer that emptiness is only the otherness of existence, the dividing line that sharpens the existence of an object, the things that surround us, negative space? That is all what it is. And that negative space, that emptiness, is a something without any history whatsoever. It doesn't have a past, it doesn't have a future, it is simply emptiness. And the other part, the dominant part, the usually prioritized part, is full of existence, it is consistent, and it's also coherent. It has all the good things that something existent can have. And we only use the empty as a negative space, like a drawing, the canvas or the empty paper when we make chalk. That is just the surface. It's the other. Although, oddly enough, it seemed to play a very significant part in what is being drawn, painted, chalked. And at the same thing is, what is it to constitute a human being? We need a border as well, and without empty space that would not be possible. Can you see somewhere here is lurking about a sort of codependency? That existence actually is absolutely dependent on non-existence, on emptiness. For were it only fullness of existence, only substantiality, materiality, we would have had the Parmenian descent, the stepping down in absolute fullness, where there is no empty space in between anything, nor in time, nor in space, nor in knowledge. Everything is completely filled up. And as Parmenides himself thought, defying the very possibility even of something not being in full presence and in full substantiality, that is discarded. Something like a scapegoat bring out to the square and put tar and spit on. And by the very act of rejecting the emptiness, we get stranded with a complete blocky fullness, a condensed whole, something that is completely massive and dense, impenetrable, unpenetrable, almost like a black hole, so filled with existence that nothing can ever be non-existence around it. And we cling to this. We make this the most important thing. And this is exactly what Parmenides did. The fullness was the salvation for him. That was that made reality real. And emptiness was a bit more than just being a sort of nuisance. It was something that has to be cast out of you, cast out of experience, cast out of the books, cast out of everything. Although at the very same a complete dependency was established. Just because the very act of doing something, calling something existence, or doing it to existence, takes in non-existence. And the very definition is empty space as well. The word is partly empty space. When I pronounce existence, to understand existence, it must be an empty space before the word existence and also afterwards. A text that doesn't have any empty space would not be understandable. And still we mean that it is only the letter that makes something understandable. And still we say of the spoken, presented nowness of the said is also dependent on the absence of both the past and the emptiness. The past is in itself a sort of an emptiness, but without that emptiness there wouldn't be a now. How could we have a now otherwise? They go against each other. They make a defining line, so to speak, automatically. And this is the very nature of reality. There is a dependency. And to say that fullness is made full only by itself doesn't really make any sense, because we see fullness in contrast to the empty. And where the fullness always has a history, a series of cause and effect stemming all the way back to the original, what could it be, first atom, first molecule, or even earlier into the Big Bang. We have a continuous defining history, where moments pass on moments and cause making effect, and that effect going into cause, making another effect. This is the nature of fullness. But the emptiness doesn't seem to have any history whatsoever. Here is no bits of emptiness following each other on a long thread or a bead. And one piece of emptiness is causing another piece of emptiness to move or to go somewhere or be changed. No, we ignore emptiness. It doesn't have a history. And although that absence also is a sort of absence or an emptiness of sort, not having the fullness of the now, it seems still that emptiness is deprived of this possibility of a history where things follow upon things in a long chain, and it's only always the present materiality that has an effect. Emptiness doesn't have any effect at all. It's out of the picture. It's only possibly a scapegoat for something. But emptiness seems to be looking at what's happening, not being able to do anything. Does this make sense? I'm not sure it does, because if you take anything, it's define what's surrounding it. And how can you be so extremely sure that that line is exactly drawn or made, and that the only thing that can cause anything is just sheer presence or massiveness? And you can even ask yourself, you can go further and ask like Xenon, and you will understand that nothing can happen in the fullness of presence, because there cannot be any movement if everything is full, because there's no empty slot to move into. This is oddly similar to the idea of the emptiness in time, no time. Empty moments in time do not exist, or they have ceased to exist. Even future moments have not existed yet and are not existing in this very now, in the presencing now, in the here. So they are also emptiness in a way. We do have the emptiness of the future and emptiness of the past, and they hardly even define the present moment otherwise as a present movement in the present. This chain of cause and effect going back to Big Bang seem to be a part of the now rather than the presence. It couldn't be part of the presence because the presence is not here. It is gone, non-causal, so to speak. It seems that the only thing that can cause things are in this exact spot of reality that we call now. All other things are uncaused in a way. The only thing that shines is the now, but it shines thanks to what is not shining, the darkness. The present is having its glory because of what's not present. The past and the future are lower down, not having this fantastic feeling of being here, alive, with a throbbing heart in this very now. They are, in a way, dead, stillborn, or rather non-active ingredients in time. But how do we find a moment in time? It's the same with a melody. It's the saying that one singular note makes the whole melody, whereas we need both the beginning and the end. And let's assume that we are in the middle. Isn't in some way the start and the end still present? Otherwise we wouldn't have a melody. We just have singular notes, and those notes are also completely surrounded by an emptiness before and an emptiness after. Isn't that interesting, I would say? The past and the present and the future are the lesser ones, the lesser other. The other that we don't want to acknowledge, even see it as something. It is a nothing, non-causing, non-dependent. And it seems that this ordering moment somehow could have happened only in the now. Now, it cannot happen in the past, cannot happen in the future, because those things are lame, ineffectual, passive, done with. It is like in those absent times, the ordering is gone. But looking into this a bit closer, we will find that somehow things are quite a bit mysterious. And I would say that's the ordering of the movements. What causes this ordering? I mentioned before that thing bumps into thing. You have cause and effect, effect on cause, cause and effect. But you also seem to have a long bead of movements. And what regulates these movements? What put them in order? And what specific order do we have? And how does that come about? I think that's the most pertinent question. How does it come about? And that's the subtitle of a little paragraph I wrote here. It is a deconstruction within the deconstruction. What is the ordering function of moments? Let's start. Where does the ordering function of the moments that of past and of future, where does it exist? Where is its habitat? Is it the sequence that Cartesius thought should follow the coordinate system, a system he himself created? What did he mean there should be an ordering function? From where would it stem? What makes certain that A is followed by B, is followed by C in his coordinate system? And it's very hard to see where that ordering function would come. There's no demanding rule for us to follow the rules that he puts up, and especially not reality itself. The orders are built on before and after by absence and presence, and that seemed to be a choice somewhere here. What is present and what is absent? One could say that movements seem to have some little force that make them follow each other, but whatever that might be is not perfectly clear. Actually, it is completely left out of the picture. Cartesius, neither do Kant, neither do Hegel explains where the ordering is coming from. Where is it stemming from that we order the movements in a specific, understandable order? And what takes care of the movements that sort of slipped out of existence, out of presence, when that movement becomes something that inhabits the past or not simply not here anymore? Who keeps the ordering there? Who's doing the calculation, the math, the credit and the debit for past moments? Where do they dwell? Do they have even a position to be in? While one could say they are the absentees, the definer of what is absolute fullness of the present moment. Seemingly they have no role to play, not even a minor role. But getting deep into the matter, we will discover that they have quite an important role to play. It is only by absence the full presence can be defined or spring into existence or livelihood or life. The absent moments are an absolute necessity for the possibility of presence. This is some hidden insight. This is underneath the surface. And there is a codependency lurking about here. It seems to have a present moment can only be in the effect of having a moment that is not present next to it. Absent and present seem to go hand in hand in a much more democratic and communicative and helpful way than we usually consider. And absence and presence seem to go hand in hand in almost the same way as we see presence and absence go hand in hand, or existence or non-existence. They are codependent and not isolated things in the world. The contradictory relationship is very deep within both the gesture of Descartes and other Western thinkers like Quine, Richard Rorty, and why not Plantinga. This is a matter that never ever been carefully looked into, and it's still incredibly interesting. There sure is a lot to gain by looking into these things, to understand the codependency and the parasitic function of emptiness. Because by taking only existence to be valuable, we actually devalue it, because it's dependent on its surroundings. And if those are deemed to be lesser, also the thing that we try to put out in the sunshine, in the full shiny presence of being here, we are at the same way making an inflation of it, making it lesser known, lesser understood, and lesser so forth. And once we lock emptiness out of the picture, we will leave emptiness to its own devices, to its own machinations. It will be a lack of influence, a lack of understanding how the future comes about. And it takes a whole lot of emptiness for the future to come into fruition. It doesn't come by itself, because every moment is defined with both spatially what is not, and temporally what it's not here, past, the future. We can also look into the emptiness of space and the crowdedness of existence. That's another way of looking at it. Second paragraph of my two subtitles here. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but just as the moments of the presencing function seem to crowd up, it becomes very sharply defined and very little in the end. And it's crowded because on both sides is this terrible emptiness, this absence of future and past. The same goes to existence and its codependency with non-existence. Hand in hand they go. And here there is something that gets ignored, that the full existence always is dependent on its other, the non-existence or the negation of existence. How else could you get this feature of existence if we around it don't have the Parmenian descent or ascent or whatever you call it? That would be absolutely filled up. So in order to have existence, we need this emptiness. And by letting emptiness in, we also get space. For otherwise it gets so crowded, both mentally and around us. only objects. I can see in front of me the idea of somebody in antiquity, Parmenides for instance, having the feeling of overcrowdedness all over his reality, inner and outer, wherever he goes, and not being able to direct his thinking or understanding the future. Because if you take absence out of the picture, how can you understand this marvelous interflow, these fluctuations between what is presencing and what is not presencing, what is here and what is absent? And we will not be able to predict the future, because half of we are using is no longer accessible because we call it absent, dead, non-existent time, you could say too. In order to understand time, we need to take in past and future, but also to understand space, and that we have more space than we think, and space is our friend. We need to take a good gander at what emptiness is and what it does, and that you could in this really understand that emptiness plays a quite decisive role, and leaving emptiness out of the calculations and make the calculations not go well. They will not show. It's a little bit like the universe, 70% dark energy. Why is that? Some things have not been taken into calculation, and I would say that is sheer and empty space. That is non-causal, non-important, but it is still there, or it isn't. But whatever we say, it has a great role to play in our lives, much too long discarded. And I say thank you very much, and say goodbye with this little view of the sunny place we have here. Cheers.